about the fact that this day is being celebrated in honor of the Dr. C.V. Raman, who was a great physicist, and his discovery in 1928, that is a simple phenomena. When light passes through a transparent system, it deflects, and when it deflects, it gets scattered and it changes its wavelength and frequency. But this simple phenomena of Raman effect, what was later on called as, or this as a Raman scattering, also that this has huge implications for the life sciences and all other forms of the life, because through which we can study the cells, we can study the tissues, and we can get the mapping of the chemical mapping of the tissues done as well. So this C.V. Raman's discovery got him the Nobel Prize in 1930s, and he was the first Asian to receive the Nobel Prize in the sciences. And not only this Raman effect or Raman scattering, and which brought him a Nobel Prize, it was also he that who started the Indian National Science Congress, and also in 1933. Besides that, he became the first Indian director of the Indian Institute of Sciences at Bangalore. He also founded the Raman Research Center at the Bangalore. Not only this, he was the Indian at the age of 16 who published his first research paper in a peer-reviewed international journal. At the age, in 1917, he became the professor of physics, and later on in 1926, he started the Indian Journal of Physics at that time, 1926 we are talking about. So since then we are talking about when it went to the international fora, that Indian science, it took a great leap ahead at that times. When we talk about C.V. Raman's why this National Science Day, it was in 1987 that the Indian government realized that in honor of the C.V. Raman, and that to enthuse or to get evolved the scientific temper among the young generation and the youth, that it was started that National Science Day from 1987. And today on 28th of February, every year this National Science Day is being observed across. So when we keep on talking about this National Science Day, every year, there is a particular theme assigned by the Minister of Science and Technology to this National Science Day, and this year's theme is Indigenous Technologies for Viksit Bharat. So we are celebrating this, and in this today's program, we have a lot of this programs. We have talks from the eminent scientists and academicians from the region. Then we have science exhibition where various scientific models will be displayed. Then we have poster presentation competition and a science quiz. Besides that, we have a panel discussion in which we will be discussing about the challenges and issues the Indian science is facing, and how to motivate the young generation to come towards the field of science.
So far as the importance of this event is concerned, this is to officially commemorate one of the landmark breakthroughs in the scientific history of the country in honor of C.V. Raman, what is popularly known as Raman effect. And this commemoration of the day has assumed greater significance over the period of time, because in the event of this fast changing transition, so far as the different scientific developments are concerned, it has many dimensionalities in the sense that such events foster a culture of scientific temperament at the grassroots level, especially among the younger generation. And that way, the country has opened a new era of scientific development in many dimensions. If we are going to analyze the trajectory of scientific development of India, some remarkable achievements have been acknowledged globally. India is presently among the top 5 countries so far as the research, scientific research publications are concerned. And then, so far as the global innovative index innovation is concerned, India is ranking among the first 40 countries, making a huge stride from 81 to 40. 81st rank was in 2015. Now India is enjoying a rank of 40 in the global innovation index. That is a huge achievement. Then so far as another important field of scientific achievements is concerned, we have been filing almost 90,000 patents annually, which is the largest since our last 2 decades. 90,000 patents. That is a huge stride since last 2 decades. So that way, the Indian leadership in the scientific achievement is globally acknowledged, and it has demonstrated from time to time. One more recent example is during the pandemic times, when India has demonstrated its potential and capability to assume the leadership in establishment of vaccine during the COVID period. All this has been made possible by strengthening an ecosystem of science and technology, whereby huge initiatives have been taken to strengthen research in the fields of astronomy, space research, climate research, semiconductors, and another important breakthrough in this line has been made when the scientific labs have traversed the journey from labs to moon. The Chandrayaan-3 has been successfully launched on the moon so far as the South Pole is concerned. That was the landmark and the first achievement among the nations. So all these scientific breakthroughs are a testimony that India is capable of assuming the leadership so far as the scientific developments are concerned. Having said this, this event has been always a theme-based event, and this year's theme has been indigenous technology for Viksit Bharat. So far as the Viksit Bharat vision, which has been carved out at national level, that is the developed India by 2047. That is after 100 years of independence. The main components of this Viksit Bharat is the rapid economic development, an important transition in the social transformation, and a robust technological and innovation development. If we would see that at the time of independence, India has inherited a host of the problems, like the problem of poverty, houselessness, unemployment, and the lack of scientific and industrial infrastructure. But with the passage of time, India has made huge strides in all these fields. Over the last 10 years, there has been a paradigm shift so far as all these arenas, whether it is the economy, where GDP has fluctuating between 10 to 12%, that is a huge achievement. And then so far as the various social initiatives are concerned, a number of programs have been initiated to make the benefits of the growth all inclusive especially on the poverty front. And as per the recent estimate, so far as the poverty figures are concerned, they have been reduced to almost 15 to 18% from 60% in 1947. That is a huge achievement.
Science, basically, if you look at what science is in terms of the Einstein's view, because Einstein is considered to be the, I would say, scientist of the 20th century. Nobody still can actually challenge the Einstein's theory of relativity, then his IQ. He has said that science is an evolved form of our common thinking. So science has to be a common, evolved form of a common thinking. It is systematically developed to grasp the intricacies of reality and acknowledge its own limitations. Because science should not be, science is today is not absolute. It's relative. That's why, because he was working in relativity, so he talked much about its limitations. You know, science should understand at present, whatever is the knowledge, whatever are the intricacies, we should be able to sort those intricacies, but at the same time, we do not become God. We know that science has its own limitations. So therefore, for this I chose the LED, light emitting diode, for research scholars and for the young school students. You know, all of these bulbs are nowadays, we have the LED, but hardly, this is 2024, if you would go to hardly 1999, 98, we had incandescent lamps or at the most the fluorescent lamps. And this LED, it received a Nobel Prize in 2014, I think. Yes, 2014. To 3 Japanese guys with, I've not worked with any of them, but I will still name them as Akasaki, Amano, and Nakamura. 2 of them working at the Nagoya University, which I have had an opportunity to visit, but it's one of the universities of Japan which is considered to be what you call the home of Nobels. And what actually these 3 people, why did they get the Nobel Prize? Nobel Prize is usually given to those people, to that invention which makes a difference on the population, on the human being. So therefore, when they entered the Swedish Academy Hall to receive the Nobel Prize and to deliver the Nobel lecture, you know, everything was bright in that hall with the invention that they had made, that was the LED lamps. If you look at their contribution, we had LED, it stands for light emitting diode. 2 of the light emitting diodes had already been described earlier, maybe 50 years earlier than this group of 3 people worked on. That is red and the green LED. But this would not make a light. If it had not the blue LED, if blue LED was not there, it would not make the illumination. So even if we had 2 diodes known, but without blue diode, blue light emitting diode, it could not produce an illumination. These people, when I read their Nobel lecture yesterday, I realized, and they have said it in the Nobel talk, that they failed 1,000 times to produce the blue light emitting diode. 1,000 times. And everybody around with whom they were working, whether in Nagoya University or elsewhere in the world, were telling them that it's not going to be achieved. But they worked hard and they ultimately could produce the blue LED, which was then superimposed on these 2 red and orange LED to produce the light. Do you know what it has produced to us, to whole of this? If you look at the before 19th century, we used the oil lamps, and oil would generate heat, and that heat would give us some particles which would give us a light. And 1 watt of heat or electricity or heat or oil would produce the heat of 1 watt, equivalent to 1 watt. It would produce 0.2 lumens. Okay, move from this oil, come back to the incandescent lamp. I'm not sure the younger generation has seen it, but we have seen it. We had the yellow lamp. It had a filament. When you would hit it with 1 watt of power or 1 watt of energy, it would produce heat, and that heat would ultimately convert into the light, and it would give 7 lumens only. It was the 19th century and even early 20th century also. Then came the fluorescent lamp. And the fluorescent lamp, when we would use 1 watt of energy, it would produce, to be exact, it would produce 70 lumens. While as this LED, if you use 1 watt of power energy, it produces 300 lumens. Now look at it, what change it made to us. It did not make change only to us in terms of the usage of the energy. Our bills fell down, but it also made huge impact on the environment, on the climate change, because you had to now look at it. When you produce 1 megawatt of the power, 25% of this power is utilized on illumination, that is the light. Rest goes to the industry, which makes the machines to work and all that. But is this 25% now, you are actually saving a lot of energy. In turn, what you are saving is also the generation, and that generation would start from where? Most of it, we had, either the coal derived power, or we had the gasoline provided power, that is diesel generators and all that. Now look at it, how science made a huge difference. But these 3 people, I also in this very lecture, the Nobel lecture, what they said, that is a message to my young students from schools. They said that they received the Nobel Prize in Physics. They said that if we had not the clarity of the phenomenon of physics, chemistry, and biology in the school days, we could have not achieved it. So the carry home message is that you need to, when you are in the school, and then of course also in the college, you need to have the basics of these physical, these phenomena very clear to you. So therefore, you cannot achieve big in science unless and until your concepts are clearer in the basic phenomenon of physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics. So therefore, for the young students who are actually thinking of choosing science as their career, it's very important that when you sit in the class, you are clear what you are going to understand and how it will benefit you in the future. Then, second thing that I want to say to the younger student is that I do not know, you people are very, I would say peer pressured to join medicine, to join engineering, to join other streams of professional courses, where you do not basically look at the clarity of concepts of these phenomena that you are doing. You are actually trying to pass an examination which is like NEET, which is like JEE, which is like these exams. But it leaves you not a good understanding of these basic phenomena that are being taught in physics, chemistry, biology, as well as in mathematics. So therefore, the people who are interested to join the science as a career, which makes a huge difference on the human thought and in the human living. Even this climate change can be tackled only by science. It cannot be tackled by politics. Politics only has to, support the science. So we are talking much about these COP28s, these phenomena where governments are involved, but ultimately it's to be tackled by the scientific community. So why I chose this was it made a huge difference to us. And during my young age, when I was in Japan, I realized how these schools, they teach science education to their students. In a school of 11th, 12th, and then even the first degree, what they call, which is our equivalent to college education, first degree, they are in science lectures. They do not teach theory and practical separately. The teacher, he brings in, for example, I have to, as a chemistry, I have to talk about, the normal pressure and temperature, NPT. I will get a pressure cooker along with me to show how normal temperature and pressure can be elevated by using different pressure cookers. So that what actually he does is, a teacher does a practical before the student and then explains the theory behind this pressure cooker. What you are doing in pressure cooker is you are only increasing the pressure than the normal pressure. And the boiling point of water changes from 100 to 110. And 110, it actually is a higher temperature than 100. So it crashes your beans, it makes your, in a shorter time, it uses lesser energy. So that is lacking even in the Indian education system, that we are actually, trying to put the student into a pressure of gaining admissions into medical schools, into engineering schools, into the professional schools, but without leaving much to understand how science works. What are scientific theories? So this is one I thought of sharing with you. The second Nobel Prize, which I chose yesterday, which relates to my working, is to Carey Mullis. In 1993, Carey Mullis got a Nobel Prize for a technology which he developed, which is called as PCR, the polymerase chain reaction. Very, nowadays everybody does it, but I don't know how many of you really know the usage of PCR is such a huge that most of the diseases this time are being diagnosed using the PCR technology. And in fact, I would definitely call myself as a pioneer of using PCR technology in Jammu and Kashmir when I started working with PCR in 1993. Small time diseases which could never get diagnosed, like cystic fibrosis, Duchenne muscular dystrophies, all those diseases would never get diagnosed if Carey Mullis had not, discovered or invented a technology called as PCR. But look how science is, how science is rewarding. I tell you in a brief, because most of you might not be knowing the basics of the PCR, but PCR uses a DNA, which is huge, and it uses small primers to polymerize between those two primers. But he was using, Carey Mullis was, what I'm actually trying to explain to young students is, Carey Mullis was using a DNA polymerase for doing all this. And every cycle, after every cycle, because every cycle had to be, he had to denature it, he had to go it to a higher temperatures at 90 degree, this DNA polymerase would get inactivated. But he realized, not he, but some other people realized that there is a bacterium which grows in a very high, temperature. What we call those volcanoes. They remain very active. They in fact reproduce those bacteria, Thermus aquaticus. They remain active. They reproduce at a temperature of more than 90. So that means they realized that the DNA polymerase must be working even at that high temperature. And that DNA polymerase is nowadays, we call it TAC DNA polymerase, Thermus aquaticus DNA polymerase. And using that, you did not have to use it every time after every cycle, a new chain of this. What I am actually trying to tell the younger students is, as science is about what knowledge we have and how we can utilize that knowledge we can utilize for understanding the intricacies of it. So observership is one of the primary criterion to understand the science and to do science.
So I'll start with a famous quote from Louis Pasteur, which says, "Science knows no country, because knowledge belongs to humanity, and it is the torch which illuminates the world." So science it's a way of thinking, how you look, as our speakers have said, that we have to keep our eyes open, we have to observe things very keenly. That's science. And science is about questioning. When something goes wrong, you have to sit down and analyze why it went wrong, what is the problem. It's all observation, right? Now, why it's important for a young generation to study sciences, in my opinion, in today's world, I would say science is important for our survival. One of the beautiful examples that I think all of us have seen is the COVID-19 pandemic, right? So how devastating the pandemic has been. Millions of people lost their lives, right? But what came to the rescue was the solution to the problem came from science. Then we have internet. We all have seen, like 25, 30 years back, things were different. But now, life has completely changed. You go to any shop, you don't need cash. As long as you have phone with you, you don't need anything else. You can do everything through internet. So science has made our life easy. Then transport. Like, these are some of the few examples. There are, n number of examples that would support why science is important, right? I have just cited 4 examples here. The third one is transport. We have seen over the years how the transport facilities have improved, and thanks to science and technology. Now we talk about electric vehicles, right? So that is again a scientific innovation. And the fourth thing, which is a local thing, that's the high density apples, right? Now, earlier, when farmers used to plant apple trees, it will take them almost 7-8 years to have fruits, to have apples. But now you have high density, breed, which gives apples second year. They take less space. You get more market value. Now, all these things are possible only because of the power and potential of science. So we see, technology is everywhere these days. And all of it is possible only due to science. So science is the backbone for technology. So science is not only beautiful, but it's also the fulcrum on which our future can rest. As our speakers have already said, that science is one of the beautiful things, as long as you do it with passion, honesty, and sincerity. And we see, around the world, there are very small countries. You talk about Singapore, you talk about South Korea, you talk about Israel, right? Very small countries in terms of population, in terms of area. But when you look at their economies, they are extremely strong. When you look at their influence on world affairs, on global politics, it is immense. Why? The only thing is because they have invested in science and technology, because they have, over a long period of time, their priority has been science and technology, and that investment is giving them fruits. Now, as I gave you 4 examples about COVID, about transport, about internet, about agriculture, horticulture. So immense improvements, immense contributions from science. But there are challenges as well. As young generation, 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years down the line, there will be new set of challenges that the society would be facing. One problem would be the growing population. Now, how are we going to maintain the food security? Where is food going to come? The land is shrinking because massive constructions. If we go from Srinagar to Anantnag or Srinagar to Kupwara, you will see the agricultural land has reduced significantly. Now, where the food is going to come from? So we have to develop scientific technologies. We have to have scientific interventions which can give us more yield in a very small, from a very small piece of land. Like you might have heard about GM crops, genetically modified crops, right? So that is one solution towards food security. Can we produce, 30, 40 years down the line, would we be able to provide food to everybody? So scientific innovations, scientific interventions are essential to maintain food security. Second, climate change. We have seen a documentary on climate change, how the climate change is affecting almost every sphere of life. Now, it will be challenged in future to provide clean drinking water to everybody. Right? So how are we going to sustain that? How are we going to maintain clean drinking water to every household? Health. Although there is a tremendous improvements in terms of healthcare diagnosis or treatment, but we still see the burden of diseases is growing. There's a tremendous shift in terms of lifestyle diseases, metabolic disorders, right? Now, how are we going to cope up these problems? How are we going to maintain a healthy society? So the solution is again science and technology. And the 4th thing would be energy. This is one sector, I think, which will depend a lot on alternative sources of energy. Because we can't rely on fossil fuels forever. They are depleting, and time will come, then there will be nothing. So we need to develop alternative technologies, alternative sources, which can generate energy for the sustenance of life. So the challenges are tremendous. So that is where the role of young generation comes. Because you are the future of this nation, you are the future of this world. The responsibility to find solutions to these problems lies in science and technology. And if, as a society, we are able to inspire, motivate young people to opt to science, I think that will be one of the biggest contributions. And over the years, we have seen that science is not only about discoveries and finding the truth, but science is turning out to be an enterprise. There is a huge scope for entrepreneurship, startups, businesses. So if, don't only think science as, working in a lab. Yes, that is the foundation, that is the backbone for innovations. But science provides tremendous opportunities as far as startups, businesses, entrepreneurship is concerned.
The problem with the science is that it has directly come into the conflict with religion. Most of the times it has been presumed that science believes in the abolishing of the religious values, which probably have led to the Galilean of Galileo itself. Because science more so believes in the practicality of life. It believes in what is seen with the eyes, or it has to do
much more than assumptions and presumptions. Likewise, there have been wars fueled within the scientists as well. But those wars were probably for the betterment of the science itself. We have seen in the modern age that different religious studies have also been carried out in different institutions which coincide with the religious findings it well. And then probably these were the things which made a great scientist, Albert Einstein, to say that religion without science is lame and science without religion is blind. Yes, it's good to know the history. And if you want to know that history, then there are books to go to. Then there is something in your hand called a mobile phone. You can look at it and you can go for it. We must know the names of the scientists as well. It is required, probably during the exams or for the other research purposes as well. But spending half of your age on remembering the names rather than doing something credential against your name is quite a riffraff that is going in the life. I understand that we have to be proud of our history, both scientific as well as religious, in which you could probably come and say that there were great scientists who have gone through tough times when at those your times when we hardly have any scientific aspirations to look at, you had given birth to Al-Farabis, Al-Batani, Ibn Khaldun, Umar Khayyam, Al-Zuhar, Abu Bakr al-Razi, Ibn Ishaq al-Kindi. You are given birth to such great Muslim scientists, but at the end of the day, you have to look at that during those your times when there were probably hardly anything to look at, the evaluation of present world has been great. But to evolve the present contributions of the great scientists who have to come forward is probably very less in number that we should be proud of. Israel, a very small country, has got per capita Nobel Prizes more than Germany and USA itself. It's quite strange, most of the times we believe in the NAC accreditations of the universities, but at the end of the day, we all should flaunt proudly, brag about what are our achievements, which are new to everything, which we have evolved at.